What if I told you that Amish gardens produce healthier plants and bigger harvests without spending a single dollar on fertilizer? Most people think good soil requires constant fertilizer purchases, but the reality involves soil building techniques that cost nothing and work better than store-bought products. And today, I'm showing you 10 of them. Manure stratification. Amish gardeners never apply fresh manure directly to soil. They age it in layered piles for 6 to 12 months, transforming raw waste into black gold. This practice started in Pennsylvania in the 1750s when farmers noticed aged manure produced better crops than fresh. Modern soil science from 2020 confirms that aged manure provides slow-release nutrients without burning plants, while fresh manure volatilizes 40% of its nitrogen. They simply pile manure, let time and microbes transform it, then apply the finished product that costs $0 but works better than synthetic fertilizer. Leaf mold collection. Amish women in Ohio developed a leaf collection system in the 1880s. They gather leaves from roadsides and woods, pile them in wire bins, and let them decompose into leaf mold over 12 to 18 months. Research from Cornell's Soil Lab validates this completely. Leaf mold improves water retention by 50%, adds beneficial fungi, and costs absolutely nothing. The method is brilliantly simple. Collect leaves in fall, pile them wet in a corner, wait 1 year, spread the crumbly black result on gardens. Modern gardeners bag leaves for trash pickup while Amish turn them into free soil amendment worth $40 per cubic yard. The nitrogen-fixing cover. What if I told you Amish gardens get richer in nitrogen every year without fertilizer purchases? The secret is planting clover, vetch, or field peas after every harvest. These legumes pull nitrogen from air and store it in root nodules. When you cut them down and work them into soil, that captured nitrogen feeds next season's crops. Here's the science. Legume cover crops can add 40 to 100 pounds of nitrogen per acre, equivalent to $60 to $150 worth of synthetic fertilizer. A 2019 study from Iowa State found cover-cropped gardens needed zero nitrogen fertilizer while maintaining yields equal to heavily fertilized plots. Plant crimson clover in fall after harvesting tomatoes. In spring, cut it down and plant directly into the residue. Free fertilizer that actually improves soil structure while feeding plants. Commercial gardening skips this because it requires planning, but you're paying $200 yearly for what grows free. Wood ash amendment. This one sounds too simple until you see the mineral content analysis. Amish families save every bit of wood ash from heating stoves and apply it strategically to gardens and orchards. This practice became formalized in Lancaster County around 1900 when farmers documented improved fruit yields in ash-amended orchards. Here's what soil testing confirms. Wood ash contains potassium, phosphorus, calcium, and trace minerals essential for plant growth. It also raises pH in acidic soils, creating better growing conditions for most vegetables. Modern research from 2018 showed gardens receiving wood ash applications had 34% higher yields in fruiting crops like tomatoes and peppers. Due to increased potassium availability, the method requires understanding pH. Test your soil first. If it's acidic, below 6.5, apply wood ash at 10 to 15 pounds per 100 square feet in early spring. If soil is already alkaline, skip ash or use it only around acid-loving plants. 1 winter's worth of heating provides enough ash to fertilize a large garden, turning waste into plant nutrition. 3-bin composting system. While modern composters use single bins that produce small batches, Amish gardens use 3-bin systems that create continuous production of finished compost year-round. Women in Indiana perfected this in the 1890s when gardens expanded to feed growing families. The science is actually remarkable. 3 bins allow proper aging while maintaining constant availability. Bin 1 receives fresh materials. Bin 2 holds actively composting materials from last month. Bin 3 contains finished compost ready to use. Research from Ohio State in 2019 proved this completely. 3-bin systems produced 300% more finished compost annually than single-bin methods because materials move through stages efficiently without interrupting the process. Build 3 wooden bins side by side, each 4x4 feet. Fill bin 1 with kitchen scraps, garden waste, manure, and leaves. After 1 month, fork it into bin 2. Start filling bin 1 again. After another month, Move bin 2 to bin 3 and bin 1 to bin 2. You always have finished compost available, you're always processing new materials, and nothing sits idle. One system produces $800 worth of compost annually from materials you currently throw away or let rot randomly. Biochar soil integration? Amish farmers in some regions create biochar by burning wood in low oxygen conditions, then crushing the charcoal and mixing it into soil. This practice gained attention in the 1990s when research connected it to incredibly fertile ancient soils. But some Amish families had been doing variations for decades. Here's what's actually happening. Biochar is pure carbon with microscopic pore structure that holds nutrients and water like a sponge. It provides permanent habitat for beneficial soil microbes and prevents nutrient leaching during heavy rains. One application lasts decades because charcoal doesn't decompose. A 2020 study from Cornell University tracked biochar amended gardens over 5 years. Soil with 5% biochar retained 40% more water, showed 67% higher microbial activity, and required 30% less fertilizer than unamended soil while producing 18% higher yields. The method requires controlled burning. Use a burn barrel with limited air to create charcoal from wood scraps. Crush it into pea-sized pieces. Mix into compost or apply directly to beds at 5 to 10 pounds per 100 square feet. It's a one-time application that improves soil permanently. Modern gardeners haven't heard of this because it's not sold in stores, but you're creating soil amendment that lasts longer than synthetic fertilizer, by literally centuries. The livestock bedding, let me ask you something most people never consider. What happens to barn bedding? Amish farmers don't clean stalls weekly like conventional operations. They use deep litter method where fresh bedding gets added on top and lower layers compost in place for 6 to 12 months. This practice was documented in Ohio communities in the 1870s when labor was precious and waste had to become resource. Here's the brilliant biology behind it. When bedding composts slowly under livestock, several things happen simultaneously. Manure and urine-soaked straw break down into rich compost. Beneficial bacteria multiply. Heat from decomposition warms barns naturally in winter, and the entire mass becomes premium fertilizer. Research from the University of Kentucky in 2019 measured this precisely. Deep litter composted for 6 months contained 50% more available nitrogen than fresh manure and had perfect carbon to nitrogen ratios for immediate garden application without burning plants. The application requires patience and space. Start with 8 inches of straw or wood shavings in animal housing. Add 2 to 3 inches fresh bedding weekly. Monitor moisture. It should feel like a wrung-out sponge, not wet or dusty. After 6 to 12 months, clean out the entire pack. What comes out is black, crumbly, sweet-smelling compost worth $60 to $80 per cubic yard if purchased. A small barn produces 1,520 cubic yards annually, creating $900 to $1,600 worth of fertilizer from bedding you'd buy anyway. Modern barns clean weekly and compost separately, but you're adding labor and time when animals could be doing the work for you. Manure succession strategy. Most modern gardeners leave soil bare between crops or after harvest. Amish gardeners plant fast-growing crops specifically to chop down and incorporate into soil as living fertilizer. This practice was documented in Pennsylvania communities in the 1840s when continuous cropping depleted soil and farmers needed restoration methods that didn't cost money. Here's what soil science has proven. Living plants grow roots that feed soil microbes. When you chop those plants at peak biomass and work them into soil, you're adding organic matter, nitrogen, and biological activity all at once. It's like applying compost, fertilizer, and beneficial microbes simultaneously. A comprehensive 2020 study from the University of Wisconsin tracked green manure rotations across vegetable gardens. Plots using green manure between every cash crop showed soil organic matter increases of 0.8% annually, equivalent to adding 5 tons of compost per acre yearly. Nitrogen levels remained stable without fertilizer, while control plots required 80 pounds of synthetic nitrogen annually. The succession pattern follows harvest timing. After early spring peas, plant buckwheat for 6 weeks, then chop and incorporate before planting tomatoes. After tomato harvest in fall, plant winter rye that grows until spring, then chop and compost in place before planting next year's crops. Different green manures serve different purposes. Buckwheat grows fast and suppresses weeds. Winter rye develops massive root systems that break up compaction. Clover fixes nitrogen. Radishes have tap roots that drill through hardpan. You're essentially growing your own fertilizer customized to your soil's specific needs. Commercial fertilizer provides generic NPK ratios. Green manures provide exactly what your soil is missing because plants mine minerals from deep subsoil and bring them to the surface. The cost is seed, typically $10 to $20 per 1,000 square feet. The return is $200 to $400 worth of soil improvement. Modern agriculture views bare soil as normal, but nature never leaves soil exposed because living roots are feeding the soil ecosystem every moment.
Now, this one is going to blow your mind because it mines fertility from places you can't reach. Amish gardeners don't just compost any plant material randomly. They specifically grow and harvest plants known as mineral accumulators that pull nutrients from deep subsoil and concentrate them in leaves. When composted, these plants create fertilizer rich in specific minerals. Communities in Wisconsin documented this practice in farm journals from the 1880s, though they didn't use the term mineral accumulator until modern soil science named it. Here's the extraordinary science. Different plants have different root depths and different mineral uptake preferences. Comfrey roots reach 8 to 10 feet deep and accumulate potassium, phosphorus, and calcium. Nettles accumulate iron and nitrogen. Dandelions bring up calcium and potassium from depths garden vegetables can't access. Research from the University of Maryland in 2021 studied mineral accumulator composting. Compost made from 50% comfrey leaves contained 340% more potassium than standard compost and 180% more calcium. Plants fed this targeted compost showed dramatically improved fruiting and disease resistance. The method requires establishing permanent accumulator patches. Plant comfrey along fence lines or in corners where it won't spread into garden beds. Let it grow until flowering, then cut it to the ground. Compost the leaves or use them directly as mulch around heavy-feeding crops like tomatoes and squash. One comfrey plant produces 4 to 5 cuttings per year, yielding 20 to 30 pounds of mineral-rich material. 10 plants create enough accumulator material to fertilize a large garden with targeted minerals that cost $150, $200 if purchased as rock dusts and amendments. Nettles work similarly. Let them grow in waste areas, then harvest before they seed and compost them for nitrogen-rich material. Dandelions growing in pathways aren't weeds. They're mining calcium from hardpan below and bringing it to the surface for harvest. Modern gardening fights these plants as weeds and then purchases the exact minerals they provide for free. They cultivated them as fertilizer factories that work 24/7, pulling nutrients from depths conventional composting can't access. No-till bed system. And here's the most incredible soil trick of all, the one that saves money on fertilizer while building soil that gets richer every single year. Amish women discovered something in the 1850s that soil scientists are only now fully understanding. They stopped tilling permanent garden beds entirely, allowing soil structure and biology to develop undisturbed year after year. This creates conditions where plants need less fertilizer while producing more because soil ecosystem functions optimize naturally. Here's why this is absolutely brilliant. Every time you till, you destroy fungal networks that move nutrients to plants. You expose organic matter to oxygen, causing rapid decomposition that releases carbon as CO2 instead of building humus. You disrupt earthworm populations and soil structure. You're essentially restarting soil biology from zero every single year. A landmark 2019 study from the Rodale Institute tracked no-till gardens versus tilled gardens over 15 years. No-till beds showed organic matter increases of 1.2% annually. After 10 years, they required 60% less fertilizer than tilled beds for equal yields because soil biology was so active that nutrients cycled efficiently without loss. The permanent bed method builds on this. Establish beds once with deep compost incorporation. Mark permanent paths you'll never walk on. Add compost and mulch to bed surfaces annually, but never dig or till. Plant through mulch. Let roots decompose in place when crops finish instead of pulling them out. The first year feels slow because you're building infrastructure. Year 2 shows improvement. By year 5, the soil is so alive with earthworms, fungi, and beneficial bacteria that it barely needs fertilizer. You're applying light compost top dressing and harvesting abundantly. After 20 years of no-till management, Amish garden soil is 8 to 12 inches deep, black, crumbly, and smells sweet. After 20 years of annual tilling, soil is still 2 to 4 inches deep, compacted below that, and requires heavy fertilizer. They knew soil is a living system that manages itself better when left undisturbed. Modern agriculture treats soil as inert medium requiring constant inputs, but you're creating biology that feeds plants better than any fertilizer ever could. These 10 soil building methods prove that Amish gardeners don't spend money on fertilizer because they invest in soil biology and nutrient cycling that work better than anything you can purchase.